My name is Anna. When I look back now, so many years later, some memories are soft, like old photographs. Others are still sharp, like a small stone in my shoe that I can feel every day. The sharpest ones are about my husband Mark's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Evans, and why even now I find it hard to forgive them. It started when I was 20 years old. 20. It feels like another lifetime. I was young, yes, but I wasn't silly. I had dreams. I worked part-time in a little bookshop, and I was so deeply in love with Mark. He was 22, just starting his first real job after college. We didn't have much money, but we had each other. We got married in a simple ceremony with just a few friends and my family. His parents came, of course. Our first home was a tiny apartment above a noisy street. It had thin walls and a kitchen, so small you couldn't open the fridge and the oven at the same time. But it was ours. I remember painting the bedroom wall a bright, hopeful yellow. Mark wasn't very good at painting. He got more paint on himself than the wall, and we laughed so much. Those first few months felt sunny, just like that yellow wall. We cooked simple dinners, pasta mostly, and talked for hours about everything and nothing. We felt like a team, ready to build our life together. Then came the regular visits with Mark's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Evans. Before the wedding, I only met them twice. They seemed quiet, reserved. I thought maybe they were just serious people. After the wedding, though, things felt different. Our first Sunday dinner at their house felt like a test. Their home was very neat, very quiet, and much bigger than our little apartment. Everything was in its perfect place. Mrs. Evans watched me as I looked around. "It's different from what you're used to, I imagine," she said. Her voice wasn't mean exactly, but it wasn't warm either. It made me feel small, like my own family home wasn't good enough. During dinner, Mr. Evans asked Mark lots of questions about his job. He didn't ask me anything about my job at the bookshop or my hopes to maybe study more later. It was like I was just there. Mrs. Evans commented on my clothes. "That's a very bright color, Anna," she said, looking at my simple blue sweater. Later, in the kitchen, she watched me try to help clear the plates. "No, no, dear. I have my own way of doing things," she said, taking the plates from my hands. I felt clumsy and useless. When we got back to our apartment that night, I felt strangely tired and sad. "Your parents are very formal," I said carefully to Mark, not wanting to sound critical. Mark was already taking off his shoes, seeming relaxed. "Oh, they're just like that," he said, giving a little shrug. "They're from a different generation, you know? Old-fashioned. Don't worry about it." But I did worry. It wasn't just one comment. Every time we saw them, there was something. A question about why I hadn't cooked Mark a proper meal. A sigh when I mentioned liking modern music. A look between Mr. and Mrs. Evans that I couldn't understand but felt excluded me. They often called Mark our boy, even though he was a married man. I tried to be friendly. I brought flowers once. Mrs. Evans put them in a vase but didn't put them in the living room. I tried asking her about her garden, which looked beautiful. She gave short answers. It felt like talking to a polite, closed door. Mark didn't seem to see it the way I did. Or maybe he didn't want to see it. "They mean well, Anna," he would say. "They helped me a lot when I was younger. Just try to be patient." Patient. I was trying. But inside I felt a little seed of hurt starting to grow. And I felt lonely. It was supposed to be our life, Mark's and mine. But his parents felt like cold shadows standing just outside our sunny yellow room, and Mark didn't seem to understand that I was starting to feel chilly. I loved my husband, but I began to wonder, just a little, if he saw the same things I did. I questioned if maybe I was being too sensitive. But the feeling of being unwelcome, of being judged, didn't go away. It just grew quieter, waiting. That feeling of being unwelcome didn't just wait quietly, it started to grow louder in the months that followed. The visits didn't stop. Sometimes they came to our little apartment. Mrs. Evans would walk in and her eyes would scan everything, like she was looking for dust or mistakes. Once she actually rearranged the cushions on our old sofa while I was in the kitchen making tea. "There, that looks a bit tidier," she said, not looking at me. It felt like she was saying my way wasn't good enough, even in my own home. Mr. Evans started asking Mark about bigger things. "Are you two saving money, Mark?" he asked one evening. "You need to think about buying a proper house soon. This apartment, well, it's a start, I suppose." He glanced around our small living room. I felt my face get warm. We were saving, slowly, but his words made our efforts feel tiny and unimportant. He never asked about my savings or my plans. It was always about Mark, about their idea of what our life should be. The comments became more direct. Mrs. Evans once told me, "You know, Anna, Mark works hard. He needs substantial meals, not just pasta and salads." I cooked other things, too, things I enjoyed making, but she made it sound like I wasn't taking care of him properly. It stung because I loved Mark, and I was taking care of him, in our own way, with what we had. I tried talking to Mark again, more directly this time. It wasn't easy. I didn't want to put him in the middle, but I felt like I was drowning in their disapproval. One night, after a particularly difficult visit where Mrs. Evans had criticized the curtains I'd spent weeks saving for and sewing myself, I couldn't keep it inside anymore. We were washing the dishes together in our tiny kitchen. The water was warm, but I felt cold. "Mark," I started, keeping my voice calm, though my heart was beating fast. "When your mother said she didn't like the curtains, it really hurt my feelings. I worked hard on them." Mark stopped drying a plate. He didn't look at me. He looked down at the plate in his hands. "Oh, Mom just says things sometimes," he mumbled. "She doesn't mean it badly. It's just her way." "But it does hurt, Mark," I insisted gently. "It feels like nothing I do is right. For them, it feels like they don't really accept me." He put the plate down slowly. He finally looked at me, but his eyes looked troubled, almost pained. "Anna, please," he said, his voice low. "Can we not make a big deal out of this? They, they helped me get through college, you know. They gave me the deposit for my first car. I don't want to, I don't want to fight with them. He looked away again, running a hand through his hair. Just try to understand them, okay? For me? And right then, I saw it clearly. It wasn't just that he didn't notice, or that he thought they were old-fashioned. He knew it was happening, at least partly, but he was afraid of upsetting them, afraid of confrontation, afraid of losing their approval, or maybe their help. He was asking me to carry the weight of their disapproval so he wouldn't have to face them. A wall didn't just feel like it was growing between me and his parents anymore. In that moment, standing in our small kitchen, I felt a thin, invisible wall slide between Mark and me too. He loved me, I knew that. But his fear was stronger than his willingness to stand with me against his parents' quiet, constant criticisms. I finished washing the dishes in silence. The hurt from Mrs. Evans' comment about the curtains was still there, but now there was a deeper, colder ache inside me. It was the feeling of being unprotected, the feeling of being alone in this. I was young, yes, but I knew this wasn't right. And I started to worry about what would happen the next time, and the time after that. How long could I keep trying to be patient? The worry I felt at the end of that conversation in the kitchen didn't get better. It settled inside me, a cold weight. I kept trying to be patient, as Mark asked. I kept trying to be polite and friendly with Mr. and Mrs. Evans. But the wall between us felt thicker now, and the wall between Mark and me on this one difficult subject remained. He avoided talking about his parents' behavior, and I stopped bringing it up as much, because seeing the fear and discomfort in his eyes hurt almost as much as his parents' words. Then came the day that changed everything. The day that holds the memory I still can't let go of. The reason forgiveness feels impossible. It was Mark's 23rd birthday. His parents were having a small dinner party for him at their house. Just family. His parents, his aunt and uncle, and us. I hadn't been feeling well all week, just getting over a bad cold that left me tired and pale. I almost didn't go, but Mark really wanted me there. "It's my birthday, Anna. Please? It won't be long," he'd said. So I put on a nice dress, tried to look cheerful, and went. The evening started quietly enough. Polite conversation, small talk. I mostly listened, still feeling drained from being sick. We sat down for dinner. Mrs. Evans had cooked Mark's favorite meal. During the meal, Mark's Aunt Clara asked me kindly how I was feeling. "Much better, thank you," I said. "Just a bit tired still." Maybe it was hearing me say I was tired. Maybe she had been waiting for a chance. But Mrs. Evans suddenly put down her fork, looked straight at me across the table, and said, her voice clear and loud enough for everyone to hear, "Well, Anna, perhaps you wouldn't be so tired if you had a proper career to give you purpose. Working a few hours in that little bookshop, it's hardly challenging, is it? Mark works so hard, building his future. It's important his wife supports that, not just drifts along." The table went silent. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. My face felt hot, then cold. It wasn't just criticism. It felt like an attack on my choices, my character, right there in front of family. It suggested I was lazy, unambitious, and maybe even holding Mark back. And it came when I was already feeling low and physically weak. My voice felt shaky, but I had to say something. I wasn't drifting. I liked my job, and I had thoughts about studying later, things Mark and I had talked about. "I enjoy my work, Mrs. Evans," I said, trying to keep my voice steady and polite. "And Mark and I support each other." Mrs. Evans just gave a small, tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, dear," she said, in a tone that suggested she didn't believe me at all. In that awful silence, I looked at Mark. I desperately needed him to say something, anything, to defend me, to disagree with his mother, to show we were a team. Just a simple, "Mom, that's not fair," or "Anna's choices are ours to make." But Mark? He froze. I saw it happen. His eyes darted from his mother to me, then quickly down to his plate. He picked up his water glass, took a long drink. His knuckles were white where he gripped the glass. He looked terribly uncomfortable, trapped. But he didn't speak. He didn't defend me. He didn't even look at his mother. After a moment that felt like forever, his uncle cleared his throat and asked Mark about a football game. The conversation shifted, leaving Mrs. Evans' words hanging in the air, unanswered. In that moment, something inside me broke. It wasn't loud, like shattering glass. It was quiet, like a deep crack spreading through stone. I suddenly understood, with absolute clarity. Mark was too afraid of his parents to stand up for me. He would let them hurt me rather than face their disapproval. He was young, yes. Maybe they did hold power over him, financially or emotionally. I could rationally see why he was afraid, but the fact remained, he didn't help me. He left me alone. The rest of the dinner is a blur. I felt cold, despite the warm room. I felt completely alone, even sitting next to my husband. The hurt wasn't just from Mrs. Evans' cruel words anymore. It was the deeper, sharper pain of betrayal by the person who was supposed to be my partner, my protector. That specific moment, his silence when I needed him most, became the wound. It was the unkindest cut of all, and I knew, even then, sitting there trying not to cry, that this was something I would carry for a very, very long time. Years have passed since that awful birthday dinner. So many years. Mark and I are still together. Some people might find that surprising after everything that happened. But life and love are often more complicated than simple stories suggest. We built a life, had children, found happiness in many parts of our world together. But that crack that formed inside me that night, it never completely disappeared. It became a part of our story, a shadow in the background. After that dinner, the ride home was heavy with silence. Mark tried to apologize later that night. "Anna, I'm so sorry," he whispered. I didn't know what to say. I froze." He looked genuinely ashamed, his fear still visible but now mixed with regret. I believed him. I understood he was afraid. He was young, too, perhaps still feeling very dependent on his parents' approval. But understanding why he didn't help me didn't magically heal the hurt. "I know you were afraid, Mark," I said quietly, my voice flat with exhaustion and sadness. "But I needed you. I needed you to stand with me, and you didn't." That night marked a change, not a dramatic fight or an ultimatum, but a quiet shift inside me. I stopped trying so hard to please Mr. and Mrs. Evans. I stopped hoping for their acceptance. I realized, with a clarity that was both sad and freeing, that I didn't need it. What I needed was to protect my own heart. Slowly, carefully, I started building boundaries. I began saying no more often to Sunday dinners. I found reasons to be busy when they wanted to visit. I kept my conversations with them polite but brief, sharing very little about my personal feelings or plans. It wasn't rude exactly, but it was distant. Mark noticed, of course. At first, he seemed anxious, maybe worried about his parents' reaction. But I stood firm, calmly explaining that I needed this distance for my own well-being. "I can be polite, Mark," I told him, "but I cannot pretend anymore. What happened hurt too much." Over time, Mark began to understand, truly understand. Maybe it was seeing the lasting effect on me. Maybe it was growing older himself and finding more courage. Or maybe it was conversations we had, sometimes difficult ones over the years. He regrets his silence that night. I know he does. He has told me many times. He learned to support my need for distance from his parents, even when it sometimes made things awkward for him. He handles most of the communication with them now. Our marriage isn't perfect. Whose is? But on this, we eventually found a way to be a team, managing the situation together, even though the scar remains. And Mr. and Mrs. Evans? Our relationship is polite, distant. We see them at holidays, maybe important family events. The visits are short. The conversation stays on safe, surface-level topics. They never apologized. I don't think they even understand how deeply they hurt me, or perhaps they don't believe they did anything wrong. That sharp edge I felt from them when I was 20 is still there sometimes, in a quick comment or a look. But now, it doesn't cut me the same way. Because I don't let it, so why can't I forgive them? It wasn't just that one comment at the birthday dinner. It was the pattern, the constant feeling of being judged and found lacking. It was the unkindness shown to a young woman who was trying her best. And it was the deep wound caused not just by their actions, but by my husband's fear-driven failure to protect me when I was vulnerable. Forgiving them feels like saying it didn't matter, but it did. It mattered a lot. My peace doesn't come from forgiving Mr. and Mrs. Evans. My peace comes from the boundaries I built brick by brick. It comes from protecting my own space and my own feelings. I learned that standing up for yourself is crucial, even if it takes time to find the strength. I learned that fear can cause real damage in relationships, and I learned that sometimes the best resolution isn't forcing forgiveness, but creating a life where the hurt has less power over you. The memory is still there, a sharp little stone. But now I choose the path I walk on, and I make sure my shoes are strong.